The sun had barely started to rise, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange. Birds chirped quietly in the distance, filling the air with gentle morning music. The homeowner stepped outside, taking a deep breath of fresh air, feeling a quiet sense of peace in the stillness of the early day. The driveway stretched ahead, long and winding, lined with neat trees and shrubs that had been tended with care over the years. It was more than just a path to the house. It was a personal space, a small sanctuary that belonged entirely to the homeowner. This driveway was private, cherished, and carefully maintained, yet it had quietly become a source of unexpected tension. For weeks, the neighbor had been driving down this long path as if it were her own. At first, it was just once in a while a quick trip to drop something off, a casual wave as she passed. The homeowner didn't think much of it. Perhaps she had assumed it was a shared space. Maybe she didn't realize it belonged solely to someone else. The first time it happened, the homeowner noticed her car parked halfway along the driveway. It was blocking the small flowering plants at the edge, and while polite annoyance stirred, it was easy to dismiss. Maybe she didn't see them, the homeowner thought. Over time, however, these visits became more frequent and bold. It was no longer a casual oversight, but a pattern. Cars would be left running, friends would appear, and packages sometimes piled up near the garage. Each time, the homeowner approached the situation with careful politeness, thinking a simple word might correct the behavior. A small smile, a friendly comment, or even a note left on the windshield had been tried. Yet the neighbor laughed it off, making it seem as if these gentle reminders were unnecessary or unimportant. The homeowner felt frustration slowly building like a quiet storm behind the calm facade of the early mornings. There were moments that tested patience more sharply. Once the neighbor's children ran across the driveway, kicking a small garden ornament over. Another time, a friend's dog left a mess on the well-tended lawn. Each incident was minor, but when added together, they painted a picture of disregard. Still, the homeowner tried to stay composed. Politeness was a shield, a way to maintain peace, without turning every small invasion into conflict. Each morning, walk along the driveway became a small mental exercise, checking for footprints, noticing tire marks, ensuring the garden remained untouched. The serenity of the property was beginning to feel fragile, as if any misstep could crack the quiet carefully built over the years. Neighbors began to notice the tension too. Sometimes when passing by, casual remarks hinted at the ongoing issue. Your neighbor seems comfortable using your driveway. One would say lightly, perhaps with curiosity or subtle amusement. The homeowner, while internally irritated, kept a calm exterior. There was no need to escalate the situation unnecessarily, yet the sense of violation lingered. The driveway had always been a private retreat, a symbol of personal space, and now it felt invaded. Though the neighbor probably never realized the emotional impact of her actions. On particularly quiet mornings, the homeowner would walk to the end of the driveway and look down the long stretch of asphalt, imagining a gate or barrier that could clearly mark the property. It was a simple thought at first, almost whimsical, yet it grew with each incident. The neighbor had crossed boundaries repeatedly, each time subtly, as if testing limits without knowing it. Each small intrusion chipped away at the homeowner's patience, but there was a strong desire to handle the matter with grace. Confrontation was always a last resort, reserved for moments when politeness failed. The first real moment of frustration came one bright afternoon when the neighbor had parked her car at the very start of the driveway, blocking delivery vans and leaving no space for the homeowner to pull their own car through. The homeowner had tried to catch her attention politely, waving and calling out. But the neighbor seemed oblivious, humming a tune, completely at ease in a space that was not hers. The homeowner felt a mix of disbelief and irritation, a strange combination of respect for maintaining composure and the raw instinct to reclaim the space. In that moment, the thought of a physical boundary became not just a fanciful idea, but a necessary action to protect personal property. Evenings were different. The driveway would glow softly in the fading light, and the homeowner would spend moments tending to the small plants, feeling ownership and pride in every careful touch. Each evening brought reflection on the past weeks and the steady accumulation of small offenses. Politeness had its limits, and the driveway. Once a symbol of peace and privacy, now represented a subtle battlefield of rights and respect. The homeowner realized that protecting what was theirs might require more than gentle reminders. That boundaries needed to be clear, tangible, and undeniable. The neighbor continued her visits, unaware of the growing tension. To her, it was perhaps friendly or convenient to drive down the familiar path. To the homeowner, each visit was a reminder of the need to assert ownership, to protect the tranquility of a space long cherished. In the quiet moments of the morning, the chirping of birds and the soft rustling of leaves contrasted sharply with the internal struggle of deciding how to handle the situation. Patience and politeness had served their time, and it was clear that more definitive action might soon be required as the days passed. The homeowner started planning small changes, thinking through possibilities that could restore peace without confrontation. Researching property lines, imagining subtle but effective signage, and even considering the installation of a small gate became part of daily thoughts. It wasn't just about keeping the driveway clear. It was about reclaiming the sense of personal space, a sanctuary where one could enjoy quiet mornings, tending plants, walking freely, and feeling the serenity of their own land. The first part of this journey was not dramatic, filled instead with quiet observation, internal deliberation, and the slow accumulation of small incidents that, together, created a compelling need for action. The neighbor's casual use of the driveway, seemingly harmless at first, had grown into a consistent challenge. Yet the homeowner's approach remained calm and measured, relying on thoughtfulness rather than immediate confrontation. Each day added more clarity, more understanding, and a subtle preparation for the moment when gentle hints and friendly gestures would no longer suffice. In those early days, the driveway remained both a refuge and a point of contention, a symbol of peace gradually intersecting with the reality of boundary violations. The homeowner cherished the mornings, the quiet walks, and the carefully maintained garden, but also prepared mentally for the necessary steps to ensure that the driveway remained what it had always been, a private, respected, and wholly personal space. This was the beginning of a journey that would test patience, assert ownership, and ultimately reaffirm the simple human need for respect and personal boundaries. Days turned into weeks, and the subtle intrusions began to pile up in the homeowner's mind. The neighbor's visits were becoming more frequent, more casual, and sometimes more intrusive. It was no longer a matter of polite oversight. It had become a pattern that suggested she felt entitled to the space. Each time she drove down the long driveway or left her car blocking a small patch of garden, the homeowner's patience was tested, yet they continued to handle it with a calm and measured approach. There was a growing realization that politeness alone might not be enough to protect what was rightfully theirs. The driveway, once a quiet sanctuary, had become a stage where minor conflicts quietly played out. The homeowner noticed each footprint on the flower beds, each tire mark on the soft gravel, and even the small dents in the grass caused by a car parked carelessly. Every evening, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, they would inspect the driveway, tending to the plants and repairing the minor damages left behind. Each action reinforced the sense that this was a personal space worthy of protection and care. It was more than just property. It was a reflection of the homeowner's respect for order, peace, and personal boundaries. The neighbor, however, seemed completely unaware of the growing tension. She would arrive unannounced, sometimes with friends or relatives, and treat the driveway as if it were a communal area. Packages were occasionally left at the curb, blocking access to the garage. The cars were parked without consideration for space or decorum. At first, the homeowner had approached these situations gently, offering friendly reminders or waving from a distance. Yet each polite effort was met with laughter, casual dismissal, or a shrug, making the homeowner feel that their boundaries were invisible or unimportant to her. Small incidents continued to escalate the homeowner's frustration. One afternoon, the neighbor's children were running around the driveway, stepping on the edges of flower beds and knocking over garden ornaments. The homeowner intervened politely, asking the children to be careful, but the neighbor simply laughed, making it seem as if these small disturbances were insignificant. Another time, a friend of the neighbor's left a bicycle leaning against the gatepost, scratching the freshly painted wood. Each incident was minor in isolation, but together they formed a pattern of disregard that could no longer be ignored. Despite the growing irritation, the homeowner chose to remain composed, thinking through each action carefully. Escalating conflict seemed unnecessary, yet there was a constant internal dialogue about when to take stronger measures. The driveway had always been a symbol of privacy and care. Now it represented a test of patience and a challenge to assert personal space. The homeowner spent long evenings considering options, from subtle signage to gentle warnings, even imagining how a small gate could make the boundaries clear without creating hostility. Each thought was weighed with care, balancing the desire for peace with the need for respect. Neighbors and passersby had begun to notice the growing tension. Occasionally, someone would comment casually, "It seems like your driveway gets a lot of traffic from that neighbor." Their words were light, almost teasing, but they carried an undertone that reflected the homeowner's internal struggle. Maintaining a calm exterior became increasingly important, not just for personal dignity, but also to avoid creating a spectacle. The homeowner's days became a blend of quiet vigilance and thoughtful reflection, carefully monitoring the driveway while considering how to reclaim the space without unnecessary confrontation. As the weeks went by, the homeowner began documenting each intrusion, making mental notes about frequency, timing, and impact. These notes were not for confrontation initially, but for clarity, helping to see the situation objectively rather than reacting impulsively. Each small act of intrusion, from leaving cars parked to ignoring garden plants, was cataloged in thought, creating a clear picture of a neighbor who had overstepped repeated boundaries. This process, although subtle, was a form of preparation for eventual action. It provided a sense of control and reassurance that when the time came, the homeowner would be ready to assert their space calmly and firmly. One particularly warm afternoon, the neighbor arrived with a group of friends, and the driveway was immediately filled with vehicles, some parked haphazardly. The homeowner watched quietly, feeling the familiar mix of frustration and disbelief. It seemed as if the driveway had become a public thoroughfare, yet it was clearly private property. The homeowner approached the group with a calm, polite voice, asking if they could move their vehicles to avoid damaging the plants. The neighbor laughed and made a casual comment about how convenient it was to use the driveway. The homeowner's calm composure remained, but inside, the decision began to solidify. More decisive action would soon be necessary. Evenings were the time for reflection, walking along the driveway, tending to the plants, and restoring order where it had been disrupted. The homeowner found a quiet rhythm. Each step along the gravel reminded them of the importance of boundaries, the value of personal space, and the effort required to maintain both. There was pride in the care taken, but also a simmering awareness that patience alone could no longer ensure respect. The driveway had become more than a path. It was a statement of personal integrity, order, and the right to enjoy one's property without interference. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the driveway, the homeowner thought about future steps. Subtle hints had not worked. Polite interventions had been ignored. It was clear that the driveway needed a clear, undeniable boundary. The idea of a gate, once merely a consideration, now seemed both practical and necessary. It would serve as a tangible reminder of ownership and respect, a physical line that could not be crossed casually. Each evening reinforced the growing resolve to implement this solution, blending calm determination with the quiet hope that clarity would restore peace without creating unnecessary conflict. The neighbor continued her visits, oblivious to the homeowner's growing frustration and plans for action. Each day became a balance of observation, maintenance, and quiet preparation. The driveway remained a symbol of personal pride, slowly transitioning from a simple path to a site of strategic planning for asserting boundaries. The homeowner's reflections, though quiet, were intense and focused. The coming days would require decisive action. The careful preparation of thought and observation would ensure that the driveway was once again respected in private. It was the slow building of a strategy rooted in patience, awareness, and the natural human desire for personal space and respect. The homeowner knew that the time for subtlety was ending, and the moment for clear, firm action was approaching. Weeks had passed, and the subtle intrusions of the neighbor had grown into a consistent pattern that could no longer be overlooked. The homeowner had spent countless hours observing, reflecting, and preparing mentally for the moment when passive tolerance would no longer suffice. It was a quiet struggle, one that blended the human desire for peace with the need to assert ownership. Each morning began the same, a careful walk down the driveway, noting tire marks, footprints, and the occasional stray package left by the neighbor or her friends. The driveway, once a serene path, had now become a stage, where subtle acts of boundary crossing occurred almost daily. The homeowner's thoughts were methodical and deliberate. Each intrusion was considered, the time of day it happened, how it affected the property, and the potential emotional impact if left unaddressed. Despite this growing tension, the homeowner remained calm and polite, understanding that reacting impulsively would only escalate the situation. Patience was key, and the slow buildup of small frustrations created a mental clarity that no sudden confrontation could achieve. Each small act of observation, each note and thought, became a step toward reclaiming the driveway in a peaceful yet assertive way. One afternoon, the neighbor arrived with an air of casual familiarity. Parking her car in the middle of the driveway without concern, friends followed, and the driveway soon felt crowded and chaotic. The homeowner approached with calm, measured words, requesting that the vehicles be moved to avoid damage. The neighbor smiled dismissively, as if these reminders were unimportant. It was in this moment that the homeowner realized subtle hints had failed. The driveway required a clear, undeniable statement of ownership, the idea of a gate. Once a distant consideration began to take shape in practical terms. Research was done quietly, measuring the entrance, consulting property lines, and imagining a design that was both functional and respectful of the surrounding space. Each detail was considered: the height, the material, how it would clearly mark the boundary without creating unnecessary conflict. The homeowner envisioned the moment the gate would stand as a clear message, one that would not rely on words or polite hints, but on the undeniable presence of a physical boundary. Planning extended to timing and implementation. The homeowner considered the neighbor's habits, noting when she typically arrived and left. Strategic timing became part of the plan, ensuring that the installation of the gate would be smooth, efficient, and avoid unnecessary confrontation while still making the point unmistakably clear. Mental preparation was as crucial as physical preparation, with each scenario imagined and rehearsed. The homeowner visualized potential reactions, considering calm responses and maintaining a composed demeanor regardless of the neighbor's attitude in parallel. The homeowner continued to maintain the driveway and surrounding garden meticulously. Each evening, after the sun dipped below the horizon, there was a quiet routine, tending plants, smoothing gravel, restoring any minor damages left by the neighbor or her friends. This act of care was not just maintenance, but a symbolic assertion of ownership. The driveway, after all, was a personal space, a reflection of the homeowner's values, attention, and respect for boundaries. It was a quiet, deliberate preparation for the larger step that was about to be taken. Conversations with local contacts, friends, and other neighbors were held cautiously. Advice was sought on best practices, potential pitfalls, and legal considerations. Each piece of counsel was weighed and incorporated into the plan. The homeowner's approach remained calm, thoughtful, and human-centric, emphasizing respect, patience, and clear communication. The goal was not to create conflict, but to establish boundaries in a way that was undeniable yet dignified. The driveway was more than a path. It was a statement of personal integrity and the right to enjoy one's own space. The day of action was carefully planned, tools were gathered, measurements double-checked, and mental preparation completed. The homeowner knew that the moment would mark a turning point. The driveway would no longer be a place of uncertainty or passive intrusion. It would become a clear, private space, defined not just by polite words, but by a visible, tangible boundary. The anticipation was balanced with calm determination. understanding that firmness could coexist with politeness and human respect as installation began. There was a quiet focus. Each step of building the gate was deliberate and precise, ensuring it would stand as both functional and symbolic. The driveway, long and familiar, gradually transformed. The presence of the gate was a physical declaration. The space was private, respected, and protected. Observing the installation, the homeowner felt a mix of relief, pride, and quiet triumph. This was not about confrontation, but about reclaiming personal space in a way that was thoughtful, clear, and dignified. Once completed, the gate stood firmly at the entrance of the driveway. The homeowner walked along the path, observing how it now framed the property and clearly indicated boundaries. Each detail, from the material to the placement, reinforced ownership and the right to privacy. The driveway, once a quiet yet contested space, had become a protected sanctuary. The homeowner reflected on the journey. Patience, observation, careful planning, and quiet determination had transformed a source of tension into a symbol of personal agency and respect. The neighbor, upon arriving later, would encounter this new reality. The homeowner knew reactions might vary from surprise to disbelief, but the clarity of the situation was undeniable. The driveway was no longer ambiguous or subject to casual intrusion. It was private, respected, and firmly under the homeowner's control. Each day following the installation was a reaffirmation of this boundary, with the homeowner maintaining calm composure while ensuring the driveway remained protected and cherished throughout the process. The human aspect of the story remained central. The homeowner's actions were rooted in respect, patience, and careful thought. The driveway was more than a path. It was a reflection of personal values, a space deserving of care, and a canvas on which the homeowner asserted dignity and calm authority. The subtle transition from passive tolerance to clear boundary setting was a journey of quiet strength, reinforcing that patience and thoughtful action could resolve persistent challenges without unnecessary conflict. The story of the driveway, now marked and protected, was a testament to the power of observation, preparation, and human-centered determination in reclaiming and preserving personal space. The morning was calm, with sunlight filtering through the trees lining the driveway, casting long, gentle shadows across the gravel path. The homeowner stepped outside, feeling a sense of resolve, knowing that today would mark a significant turning point. The gate was complete, standing firm at the entrance, a clear boundary signaling that the driveway was private. Every detail had been carefully considered, from the height to the material, ensuring that it would communicate ownership without appearing hostile or aggressive. It was a quiet assertion, a physical reminder that boundaries were to be respected. The neighbor approached as she usually did, her car rolling slowly down the familiar path. But today, the driveway presented something entirely different. The gate blocked the entrance, a silent yet unmistakable declaration of control. The homeowner watched quietly from a distance, anticipating her reaction. There was no rush to speak or explain. The presence of the gate itself conveyed the message clearly. For weeks, subtle intrusions had tested patience, but now the driveway's boundaries were indisputable. The neighbor came to a stop, eyes widening in surprise as she took in the gate, her casual familiarity replaced with sudden realization. She got out of her car, walking cautiously toward the homeowner, who remained calm and composed. There was a brief moment of tension, an unspoken acknowledgement that things had changed. The homeowner greeted her politely, inviting a conversation without aggression. The neighbor, initially flustered, attempted to laugh it off, as if the gate were merely a minor inconvenience rather than a clear boundary. But the homeowner's calm demeanor and deliberate words made it evident that this was a serious matter. The conversation unfolded with measured clarity. The homeowner explained that the driveway was private property, recounting previous instances where subtle hints and friendly reminders had been ignored. The tone was firm but respectful, emphasizing the importance of boundaries, respect, and personal space. The neighbor initially responded defensively, claiming misunderstandings or assuming the driveway was a shared space. The homeowner listened patiently, understanding that acceptance might take time. Yet the presence of the gate made the situation undeniably clear. Throughout the conversation, the homeowner maintained a steady, human-centric approach. There was no yelling, no threats, only calm explanation and polite assertion. Each point was made clearly, emphasizing that the gate was not a punishment, but a necessary measure to preserve privacy and respect. The neighbors' reactions shifted from confusion to disbelief, slowly moving toward acknowledgement. The driveway, once a space of subtle tension and minor intrusions, now stood as a symbol of firm boundaries, human patience, and deliberate action. As the neighbor realized the seriousness of the situation, she attempted to negotiate, suggesting casual access or occasional use. The homeowner remained composed, reiterating that the driveway was private and that respect for boundaries was non-negotiable. There was no anger, only clarity, and the conversation gradually transitioned from confrontation to understanding. The neighbor, though initially resistant, began to grasp the necessity of the boundary and the homeowner's commitment to preserving personal space. The day continued with the homeowner, observing quietly as the neighbor adjusted her behavior. There were subtle signs of acceptance. She parked elsewhere, avoided blocking the driveway, and treated the space with newfound respect. Each action reinforced the effectiveness of the gate as both a physical and symbolic measure. The homeowner, maintaining calm and dignity, recognized the importance of patience, thoughtful action, and clear communication in resolving conflicts. Evenings became a time for reflection and restoration. The homeowner walked along the driveway, tending to plants, smoothing gravel, appreciating the quiet order restored to the space. The tension that had built over weeks of subtle intrusions was now replaced with a sense of calm accomplishment. The driveway, once a contested path, had been reclaimed through patience, observation, and deliberate action. The gate served as a reminder that respect for boundaries is essential and that human-centric, thoughtful approaches can resolve conflicts without unnecessary hostility. The homeowner considered the broader implications of the experience. It was not just about a driveway. It was about human dignity, patience, and the importance of standing firm while maintaining composure. The story of the gate was a lesson in subtlety, clarity, and assertiveness. Each interaction, each careful step, had built toward this moment of resolution, demonstrating that calm determination and clear boundaries could transform tension into understanding. Days passed, and the driveway remained protected and respected. The neighbors' visits were now cautious, polite, and aligned with the boundaries established. The homeowner continued to tend the garden, walk along the path, and enjoy the peaceful mornings and evenings that had once been disrupted. There was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that patience, thoughtful planning, and human-centric action had preserved the serenity of the space. Throughout this process, the homeowner's approach exemplified balance, firmness without hostility, clarity without aggression, and assertiveness rooted in respect. The driveway, once a source of subtle conflict, now symbolized the effectiveness of calm determination, careful preparation, and the human capacity to resolve challenges thoughtfully. The gate was not just a physical barrier. It was a testament to the power of measured action, the importance of boundaries, and the potential for understanding when patience and respect guide human interactions. By the end of Part 4, the driveway had been transformed from a contested space into a sanctuary of calm and order. The homeowner's patience, strategic thinking, and respectful communication had led to resolution, demonstrating that conflicts can be addressed without aggression and that clear boundaries can restore peace. The story highlighted the human-centric journey of observation, reflection, and decisive action, culminating in a moment where the driveway was once again a private, respected, and cherished space. The mornings after the installation of the gate felt different, almost serene. The driveway, once a site of subtle tension and intrusion, had become a space of quiet respect. The homeowner walked along the gravel path, observing the plants, tending to flowers, and feeling a sense of calm that had been absent for weeks. Each step along the driveway reminded them of the journey that had led to this point. Patience, careful planning, and deliberate action had restored order to what was once contested ground. The neighbor's behavior had noticeably changed. She no longer treated the driveway as a casual thoroughfare or a place for convenience. Instead, she approached with caution, parking elsewhere and respecting the clear boundary established by the gate. There were moments of awkward acknowledgement, subtle nods, and polite interactions, but the dynamic had shifted completely. The homeowner had achieved what they had hoped for. The driveway was private, respected, and free from unwelcome intrusions. Evenings were especially peaceful. As the sun set, casting warm hues over the trees and gravel, the homeowner would walk slowly, smoothing the pathway, storing any minor disturbances, and appreciating the renewed tranquility. The driveway had transformed into a sanctuary, a place where human patience and thoughtful action had yielded tangible results. The sense of accomplishment was quiet but profound, rooted in the understanding that boundaries, once clearly defined, can create harmony even in situations that once seemed fraught with tension. Reflecting on the experience, the homeowner realized the importance of patience, observation, and measured action. The neighbor's repeated intrusions had tested limits, but responding with calmness and strategic planning had proven far more effective than immediate confrontation. The gate was not just a physical barrier. It was a symbol of respect, dignity, and the assertion of personal space. It conveyed a message without words, demonstrating that firmness and politeness could coexist. There were lessons in the small details as well. Observing the driveway each day, noting patterns of behavior, and preparing mentally for different scenarios had been crucial steps in reclaiming the space. The homeowner had approached the situation with empathy, understanding that the neighbor might not have realized the impact of her actions, yet the need for clear boundaries was non-negotiable. And the combination of thoughtful observation and decisive action had achieved the desired outcome. Over time, the driveway remained a symbol of calm, order, and private space. The homeowner continued to tend to it, taking pride in the care and attention given to every plant, every gravel path, and every boundary marker. The presence of the gate ensured that respect for personal space was maintained, reducing tension and fostering a peaceful environment. Each day reinforced the lessons learned, that patience, preparation, and respectful assertion are powerful tools. In resolving conflicts and establishing harmony, the experience also highlighted the importance of human-centric thinking. Every action taken by the homeowner was rooted in respect for both the self and others. The goal was not to punish or humiliate the neighbor, but to create clarity and understanding. By maintaining calm composure, clear communication, and thoughtful planning, the homeowner ensured that the resolution was dignified and sustainable. The driveway became more than a path to a home. It became a testament to careful thought, patience, and the human ability to navigate challenging interpersonal situations. As the weeks passed, the neighbor adjusted fully, acknowledging the driveway's private status and interacting respectfully. The homeowner's consistent, calm approach had transformed potential conflict into understanding and cooperation. The driveway, once a contested space, had become a quiet retreat, reflecting the homeowner's values, patience, and human-centered approach to problem-solving. Each interaction reinforced the effectiveness of clear boundaries and thoughtful action. In reflection, homeowner understood that this journey was about more than just a driveway. It was about respecting personal space, asserting boundaries in a calm and respectful manner, and using patience and observation to guide human interactions. The driveway was a symbol of the balance between firmness and politeness, clarity and empathy, and personal rights and mutual respect. The lessons learned would extend beyond this single property, shaping how the homeowner approached relationships, boundaries, and challenges in all aspects of life. By the end of this journey, the driveway stood as a quiet victory, a place of calm and order, and a reminder of the power of thoughtful, human-centric action. The homeowner had navigated the tension with patience, respect, and clear communication, demonstrating that conflicts can be resolved without hostility and that boundaries, once clearly established, foster understanding, peace, and lasting harmony. The story of the driveway concluded not with confrontation or bitterness, but with quiet triumph, reflection, and the enduring satisfaction of reclaiming and protecting a personal space through thoughtful, deliberate action. The days that followed the resolution of the driveway situation carried a different kind of calm for the homeowner. The gates stood firm, a testament to careful planning, patience, and human-centered action. Each morning, as sunlight poured over the gravel path and trees, the homeowner walked slowly along the driveway, observing the small details that made it so personal, the flowers that bloomed each season, the shrubs carefully pruned, the subtle shadows cast by the rising sun. Every element was a reminder of the journey that had been undertaken. From initial tension to clear boundaries, and now to quiet restoration. The neighbor's behavior had settled into an entirely new pattern. There was a noticeable respect for the driveway, the gate signaling clearly that intrusion was no longer acceptable. She approached cautiously, no longer assuming access, and interactions became polite, measured, and considerate. The homeowner felt a quiet satisfaction, understanding that patience, consistent observation, and firm but gentle enforcement of boundaries had changed the dynamics without hostility. It was a small victory, but one that carried significant personal meaning. Maintaining the driveway became a routine that combined practical care with reflection. Each evening, the homeowner would walk along the gravel, restore the plants and flowers, and smooth any disturbances caused by weather or passing visitors. These moments became meditative, a chance to connect with the space and reflect on the importance of personal boundaries, respect, and patience. The driveway, once a site of subtle stress, had transformed into a sanctuary where calm and order prevailed. The experience had provided more than just a solution to a physical problem. It had offered lessons in human behavior, resilience, and communication. The homeowner understood that people might not always recognize or respect boundaries unless they are clearly defined. Subtle hints often fail when individuals assume familiarity or entitlement. By creating a tangible boundary with the gate, the homeowner conveyed respect for the neighbor while also asserting personal rights. It was a quiet but powerful form of communication that transcended words. Interactions with the neighbor became a study in human adaptation. She learned to navigate the driveway respectfully, adjusting her routines to align with the homeowner's clearly defined space. There were moments of reflection in these interactions. The homeowner observed that, while initial responses might be defensive or dismissive, clarity, calmness, and consistency could guide behavior toward understanding and cooperation. The driveway was now a place of coexistence, where boundaries were honored without hostility, a balance achieved through patience and deliberate action. The homeowner's perspective extended beyond the immediate property. The driveway situation served as a broader reflection on human relationships and the importance of clear communication. It was a reminder that establishing personal space, asserting boundaries, and doing so with calm and respect could prevent conflict and foster mutual understanding. Each day spent maintaining and observing the driveway reinforced these principles. Embedding them in practical lived experience, evenings became a cherished time. With the driveway bathed in warm hues as the sun descended, the homeowner would walk slowly, tending to the smallest details and appreciating the quiet order. There was a sense of accomplishment in every careful touch, a reminder that deliberate, patient effort could yield meaningful results. The gate was more than a structure. It was a symbol of thoughtful action, human dignity, the restoration of personal space. Throughout these days, the homeowner also reflected on the emotional journey. The initial stress, subtle frustrations, and repeated intrusions had tested patience and composure. Yet, the process of careful observation, planning, and execution had reinforced a sense of confidence, resilience, and human agency. By acting thoughtfully and consistently, the homeowner had transformed a situation of minor conflict into an example of peaceful resolution and personal empowerment. The driveway remained a living space, cared for daily, a blend of beauty, order, and personal expression. Each flower, shrub, and pathway spoke to the homeowner's commitment to maintaining not only the physical property, but also the emotional and psychological space it represented. The gate continued to serve as a boundary marker, a silent but effective communicator of respect and ownership, ensuring that interactions with the neighbor remained courteous, clear, and mutually respectful. Over time, the experience became part of the homeowner's understanding of community dynamics and personal rights. It illustrated the delicate balance between patience, observation, and firm action. The driveway was no longer a source of tension. It had become a testament to what could be achieved with thoughtful, human-centric problem-solving. The homeowner's story was now one of empowerment, reflection, and quiet triumph, demonstrating that challenges can be addressed through clarity, calm, and consistent action. As the days flowed into weeks, the driveway stood as a symbol of the homeowner's journey, from subtle stress and repeated encroachments to careful planning, firm boundaries, and eventual peaceful coexistence. Each morning and evening walk reinforced the value of patience, respect, and deliberate action. The driveway was once again a space of calm, order, and personal satisfaction, reflecting the homeowner's values and the human ability to resolve conflicts thoughtfully. Through this journey, the homeowner gained not only control over a physical space, but also insight into human interactions. The importance of boundaries and the quiet power of patience combined with deliberate action. The driveway, once contested, now represented a sanctuary, a place where respect, clarity, and human dignity converged. Every day was a reaffirmation of the lessons learned that calm, thoughtful, and consistent action can transform tension into harmony, and that personal space, when defended respectfully, can foster both understanding and peace. By the conclusion of this phase, the driveway was more than just an entrance to a home. It had become a symbol of the homeowner's resilience, strategic patience, and human-centered approach to challenges. The experience reinforced that boundaries, when clearly defined and calmly maintained, create environments of respect, tranquility, and empowerment. The homeowner's journey, from initial frustration to quiet triumph, highlighted the enduring value of thoughtful action, consistent observation, and respectful assertion of personal rights. The driveway now stood as a lasting testament to patience, clarity, and the quiet strength that comes from human-centric problem-solving. The following weeks brought a deeper sense of calm and balance to the homeowner's life. The driveway, once a source of stress and frustration, had become a place of order, reflection, and quiet pride. The gate stood as a symbol of boundaries well established and respected, and the homeowner felt a renewed connection to the space that had always been theirs. Each morning, as the sun rose and lit the gravel path, the homeowner walked slowly, observing the flowers, the shrubs, and the soft patterns of sunlight filtering through the trees. These walks were more than maintenance. They were moments of reflection on the journey that had led to this peaceful state. The neighbor's adjustments continued. She now approached the driveway with understanding and consideration, parking elsewhere and ensuring that her presence did not disturb the property. Interactions were polite, brief, and respectful, a reflection of the boundaries that had been calmly but firmly established. The homeowner noticed subtle signs of acknowledgement, a slight nod when passing, careful attention to where vehicles were left, and a quiet recognition of the driveway as private. This new dynamic reinforced the effectiveness of calm, deliberate, and human-centered action. Each day brought opportunities for small acts of care. The homeowner tended to the garden, smoothing gravel, pruning shrubs, and ensuring the space remained orderly and beautiful. These tasks were meditative, providing a rhythm to daily life and a sense of accomplishment. The driveway had transformed from a contested space to a sanctuary, physical expression of patience, persistence, and thoughtful problem-solving. Every detail, from the smallest flower to the alignment of the gravel, was a reflection of personal values and the care taken to maintain boundaries respectfully. The homeowner also reflected on the broader lessons of the experience. The initial tension and repeated intrusions had been challenging, but the journey highlighted the power of patience, observation, and measured action. Clear communication and calm enforcement of boundaries proved far more effective than confrontation or anger. The gate, standing firm at the entrance, communicated ownership and respect without hostility. This approach emphasized human-centric problem-solving, understanding, assertiveness, and dignity combined to resolve conflict. Observing the neighbor's adaptation provided further insight. People often need clarity and consistency to understand expectations and respect boundaries. The homeowner had provided both, and the results were evident in the neighbor's behavior. This observation reinforced the importance of consistent, thoughtful action when managing relationships and personal spaces. The driveway, now functioning harmoniously, served as a practical example of these principles in action. Evenings remained a time of reflection and calm. As the sun set, casting warm light across the driveway, the homeowner walked slowly, smoothing gravel, attending to plants, and appreciating the peace that had been restored. The quiet satisfaction derived from these walks was deeply human, a combination of pride, relief, and connection to one's space. The driveway, once a source of tension, was now a place of serenity, maintained through consistent effort, attention, and the thoughtful assertion of boundaries. Throughout this period, the homeowner also considered the emotional and psychological growth resulting from the experience. Patience, careful observation, and deliberate action had not only restored the driveway, but also strengthened personal resilience, confidence, and understanding. The challenges of repeated minor intrusions were transformed into lessons in assertiveness, empathy, and problem-solving. Each day reinforced the value of clear, respectful communication and the importance of calmly maintaining personal space. The driveway had become a living testament to these lessons. Every flower, shrub, and pathway reflected care, diligence, and the human capacity to navigate challenges thoughtfully. The gate was not merely a physical boundary, but a symbol of the homeowner's journey, representing patience, strategic thinking, and the ability to resolve conflict without aggression. The space had become a sanctuary, embodying respect, harmony, and the quiet strength that comes from deliberate, human-centered action. Interactions with the neighbor were now predictable and polite. She respected the boundaries set, approached the property considerately, and no longer tested the limits of the driveway. The homeowner maintained a calm presence, reinforcing the quiet assertion of space. This ongoing dynamic was a reminder that firmness and politeness can coexist, and that human-centric approaches often yield sustainable solutions to its interpersonal challenges. The homeowner continued to reflect on the broader implications of the experience. The driveway, once a source of tension, was now a place of calm, order, and personal satisfaction. The lessons learned extended beyond the property itself. Patience, observation, clear communication, and respectful assertiveness were tools applicable to many aspects of life. The experience had reinforced the value of thoughtful action, human dignity, and the importance of boundaries in fostering understanding and peace. Days flowed into weeks, and the driveway remained a sanctuary. The homeowner's care and attention ensured that the space retained its beauty and order. The gate, a silent yet powerful symbol, continued to communicate the homeowner's expectations and maintain harmony. Each morning and evening walk was a reaffirmation of the journey, a reminder that patience, careful planning, and respectful assertion could transform conflict into understanding and tranquility. Through this continued attention and reflection, the homeowner gained deeper appreciation for the interplay between personal boundaries, human behavior, and effective problem-solving. The driveway stood as a symbol of deliberate, thoughtful action, demonstrating that challenges, when addressed calmly and strategically, could be transformed into opportunities for growth, understanding, and lasting peace. The story of the driveway had evolved from tension and intrusion to reflection, resilience, and human-centered triumph, culminating in a space that was respected, cherished, and harmoniously integrated into daily life. The driveway had become a symbol of careful planning, patience, and thoughtful action. Each day, as the sun rose and illuminated the gravel path, the homeowner walked slowly, taking in the subtle beauty of the flowers, the shrubs, and the neatly maintained borders. This space, once the source of stress due to repeated intrusions, had transformed into a sanctuary of calm, order, and reflection. Every step was a reminder of the journey from tension to peaceful resolution and the power of human-centered problem-solving. The neighbor had fully adjusted to the changes. She no longer assumed the driveway was available for casual use and approached interactions with respect and awareness. The homeowner observed this shift with quiet satisfaction, noting that clear boundaries combined with calm enforcement had altered the dynamic without aggression or confrontation. Each polite exchange reinforced the importance of patience and thoughtful action in shaping respectful relationships. Daily routines took on a meditative quality. The homeowner would walk along the driveway each morning and evening, smoothing gravel, tending to plants, and ensuring that the space remained orderly. These moments were not just about maintenance. They were times of reflection on the lessons learned. The driveway had become a canvas for demonstrating the value of careful observation, strategic planning, and human-centric decision-making. It embodied the balance between firmness and politeness, clarity and empathy that had guided the entire journey. Observing the neighbor's behavior further reinforced the effectiveness of the approach taken. Initial misunderstandings and casual intrusions had been replaced by considerate actions and respectful acknowledgement of boundaries. The homeowner realized that people often need clear, consistent cues to adjust behavior. By providing those cues calmly, with firmness and dignity, long-term changes could be achieved without hostility. The driveway, once contested, now functioned as a tangible example of this principle in action.